We have a major Toronto Raptors update as the Raptors are one of the favorites to land Khris Middleton via trade. And this makes a ton of sense given the current contracts the Raptors do have out there on the roster. Expiring deals, expiring contracts that allows the Milwaukee Bucks to work with Masai Ujiri and get under that tax threshold, which has been the common theme of everything that's been talked about heading into this year's trade deadline. All teams want to shed money. All teams want to get out underneath that tax margin because it essentially handcuffs every single team across the NBA with the new rules that have recently been implemented. There's a lot more strings attached to being above a cap team. So essentially, the Milwaukee Bucks are one of those teams. They've been rumored a bunch of different trades trying to get under the cap. And the Raptors, it's looking more and more to be a trade partner with the Milwaukee Bucks in order to facilitate one of those trades and in return receive some draft compensation. And now it looks like a Khris Middleton who, as of late, is looking beyond wash. So we're going to break down what's going on with this sort of trade discussions, why the Toronto Raptors are one of the favorites to land Khris Middleton, and what we can expect from this team in the coming weeks for a potential trade. So lots of stuff to break down. Of course, guys, if you're a part of the over 67% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet and you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with this team, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing that's happening with this Toronto Raptors group as we enter the madness of the NBA trade deadline, and the Raptors are going to be active players. So what's going on? Because you might look at this and be like, Ben, Khris Middleton, why on earth would the Toronto Raptors go after him? We're not we're trying to capture some flags. We're trying to tank away another season. Are we trying to compete? We won 4 or 5 games. Are we trying to get some W's? Well, this is the reality of what's going on. The Bucks want to get under the cap. The Raptors had cap space, and they're not too worried about eating some extra big salaries over the next couple of seasons, given the fact we are in a rebuild and we are going after Cooper Flag. So even if Khris Middleton isn't playing as well, we'll dive into his stats. We don't mind picking him up and his large contract. And this is getting shown out through the betting odds, the odds in terms of what's going on. As basically news has come out, the Miami Heat are the favorites to land Khris Middleton, but essentially even odds. It was plus 250 for the Miami Heat. Even odds for the Pistons, the Wizards, and the Toronto Raptors to also be other teams that are destinations for Khris Middleton in one of these trades. So, again, might be a little bit of a shock to some people seeing Khris Middleton's name because he is still a good player, like in a big name that has been solid in recent years. But the thing about Khris Middleton is he has just been depleted with injuries. It's gotten to the point where the Bucks have taken him out of starting units, have tried to figure out different ways to make him work, make him get better, but it just hasn't really been put together yet. As over his last 8 games, Khris Middleton is averaging 9.6 points per game, 4.4 assists, still getting 23 minutes a night, but is shooting 25% from behind the three-point line, and his most recent outing had 0 points, went 1 of 4 shooting for the field. Just a bad game, bad stretch of performances for Khris Middleton out there for this team. So just not a lot of great stuff. 4 from the field, not 1 of 4, goodness gracious. But Khris Middleton is a very, very interesting piece for the Toronto Raptors to bring in because, again, salary-wise and things like that, he's making a ton of money over the next couple of years. $31 million this season, and then he has a player option for $34 million, which you bet that he is going to pick up. Unless some crazy team comes out and offers him some crazy bag, Khris Middleton is picking up that $34 million per year because, given his injury situation, we don't know how long he has left out there in the NBA. So, Ben, that's way too much money. That's way too much stuff to bring in. Well, as we've seen, as we've discussed, as has been brought up on recent videos and recent chatter, the Toronto Raptors are trying to get rid of different pieces. Like, this is not novel information. This is not novel news, right? Chris Boucher, Bruce Brown, all these types of guys are contracts that are set up to be traded for this upcoming season. And the Toronto Raptors are trying to get draft capital and getting off of these guys. And draft capital is extremely valuable in the hands of Masai Ujiri because he's such a good talent evaluator out there in the NBA draft. The scouts on this team are really, really effective in terms of getting the right pieces. I mean, we've seen it over the last little while. Again, there's some misses every now and then. Your Malachi Flynn's of the world, that happens. But overall, Masai Ujiri has been an absolute monster out there of finding the right type of talent. So draft capital is very valuable in the hands of Masai Ujiri, and basically now we're seeing what's going on here. So basically what we can see happen with the Milwaukee Bucks, of course there is one avenue, one report, or one route that certainly could happen that leads Khris Middleton being on the Raptors, is Toronto Raptors getting in the Jimmy Butler blockbuster sweepstakes. Now, being a part of a 4-team trade, it is very, very hard to put together. It's hard to manage. All teams have to be happy. It's a tough thing to organize in the NBA. Now, Masai Ujiri has a history of being able to get involved in these types of things. He did it with the Denver Nuggets back when they traded Carmelo Anthony, the Rudy Gay trade. He's done different things, for this Raptors team, and facilitating multi-team moves and multi-team stuff. Masai Ujiri can cook up these big blockbuster deals, but if that can't happen, and I don't want to get into every iteration of a Jimmy Butler trade where the Raptors get involved, but if that can't happen, you can make a deal straight up with the Milwaukee Bucks. That makes a ton of sense. So basically looking at, we'll make it bigger here now, the Toronto Raptors sending out Kelly Olynyk, Chris Boucher, Davion Mitchell, essentially opening up basically $10 million in cap space for the Milwaukee Bucks, and then essentially what can go down, what can happen, or a few $1 million, so it's 7, 8, whatever. It gets them under the cap a decent bit, and then they take on the 2 years of Khris Middleton's contract, and then take a 2026 first, which is going to be one of the later first, but still first-round pick, and then the 2026 draft, which is expected to be a very, very good NBA draft, and then also a 2031 second. So another asset to add to your pool. Now, this is a deal that people might be frustrated. Oh, Chris Boucher's been so good. It's been this, it's been that. Well, getting a first, for expiring contracts and stuff is very, very valuable. That's just the reality of what's going on. Again, Kelly Olynyk's on a multi-year deal, and you might look at that, the forward spot. I mean, we do have some forwards out there in the wing. Orlando Robinson's a 10-day, but he's impressed some people saying, hey, we get rid of the forwards, maybe he can be an interesting piece. But Khris Middleton also coming back is an interesting acquisition, because if he's healthy, Khris Middleton is still a guy that's, been good at basketball over the course of his career. Again, this season hasn't been great. Overall, 12 points per game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. Does look like he's struggling to move out there, but the Raptors could rehabilitate his value, and then next season, when he's expiring, make another trade, or heck, next year, if the team is competing, if they are trying to contend, Khris Middleton could be a very interesting three-point shooting wing that has won an NBA championship to have out there on the group. You use this season as a rehabilitation season for Khris Middleton, and then Milton actually ends up being a useful piece for your team moving forward into the future. So I think that trade is very, very intriguing as a Toronto Raptors fan. Again, if it completely goes up the wall with Khris Middleton, you get some picks, and then you also let him be expiry after next year, and we'll see how we are next season in terms of rebuilding era. But there's also another avenue, another direction the Raptors could go with the Milwaukee Bucks. And this is essentially a report that we've seen a few days ago, the 21st, a week ago now. Essentially, the Pistons, Raptors, and Wizards are among the teams that have been open to the idea of trading for Pat Connaughton's contract at the right price. The Bucks have been actively trying to trade Connaughton for months, and the Milwaukee Bucks are trying to escape the second apron if they offloaded Pat Connaughton. So, again, getting some draft capital for him would be very, very valuable. Connaughton hasn't been having the greatest of seasons by any means as well. 4 points per game, 3 rebounds, been out in and out of the rotation. Shooting 28% from the 3-point line, 23% on corner threes. So, again, not that great of a piece. The Raptors get some draft capital back from the Milwaukee Bucks. That would be very, very positive in terms of having one of these Pat Connaughton deals actually go down. So let me know what you guys think about these potential options for the Toronto Raptors and making a big trade with the Milwaukee Bucks. Let me know in the comment section down below. But you guys the best think as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.